As the indie author scene gets more and more saturated, authors are looking for a way to help themselves stand out, to find new readers without shelling out a lot of money on advertising. Fair enough. But as indie authors are getting more sophisticated, it's also getting more difficult to find ways to stand out because everybody's kind of a pro now. That's a good thing, especially for readers. One way to stand out is to tap into the market of people who absolutely will not read your book unless it is available on audio. The reason they're like this is not to be difficult, obviously, but they're busy. They're in the car all the time. They're doing other things while they want to read. If they had to sit down with an actual book or an ebook, they would just never read. I know this because I used to be one of those people. That's right, the nonsense-free editor, whose job is reading other people's stuff, was an audio-first reader. This was when I worked at a physical office. I was in the car all the time. And when I did have downtime, it was kind of frowned upon to whip out a book at your desk. There are a lot of people like this. So, how do you cater to these people? Well, obviously you make an audiobook. I heard that is expensive. Kristen, I am not made of money. That is true, except when it's not. And I know this because I just made my own audiobooks using Findaway Voices, one of several vendors that will make your book available wherever audiobooks are sold. How did I do this? And more specifically, how did I do it for free? Let's talk. Hello, Shameless Writers. I'm Kristen McTiernan, the nonsense-free editor, here for your somewhat regular dose of writing, editing, and publishing wisdom. In addition to being the nonsense-free editor, I am also an author myself, specifically of paranormal and time travel fiction. While my writing has slowed to a crawl, apologies everyone, I am trying to find new avenues to find new readers, and the first avenue that I'm trying is audio. The first two books in my Black Magic series, Black Magic's Prey and Black Magic's Shadow, are now available for purchase in audio format through Findaway Voices. Findaway Voices is a wide distributor, which means that if you use them, your audiobook will be available pretty much wherever they're sold, as opposed to a place like ACX, which caters almost exclusively to Amazon's platform, Audible. So you might be wondering, how did I accomplish this feat? How much money did it cost me? Etc., etc. I am here to take you through step by step. Step one, obviously, is you have to record the audiobook. This can be done in one of two ways. You can do the expensive route, and that is hire a narrator. Findaway Voices offers you the ability to hire a narrator directly off the platform. You don't need to go to Fiverr or some other site. You can find one right there on Findaway Voices, including a sample, pricing, and what kind of accents they can do. For someone like me, who generally has a multicultural cast, that's very helpful. Prices tend to vary, so if you have someone who is new to the game, they might charge you $30 to $50 per finished hour, which means that you're not paying them for every moment they spend in front of the microphone. You're paying them for the amount of time that's finished. This makes it a little bit more reasonable. Once you get up into, say, Kate Redding territory, they get a lot more expensive, and there's a good reason for that. Kate Redding is a jewel, and every book that I have ever listened to that she did just makes me happy, including the Lady Sherlock series, link in description. This series is my crack, you guys. The second way you can get your audiobook narrated is what I did, and that's you can record it yourself. Now, as you can hear for yourself, I do have somewhat of a dulcet-toned voice. I've been presenting in one form or another since I was a kid, so I felt up to doing my own audiobook. The way that I did this is I downloaded a free program called Audacity. Just because it's free does not mean that it's not good. There are many, many professional voice artists who use Audacity because it's all you really need. It is fantastic. However, that being said, just for user-friendliness purposes, full disclosure, for book 3 of my Black Magic series, I will be using the same program that I use to create my YouTube videos, which is Descript. It's a little easier to edit, and frankly, I just like the interface better. Descript does cost money, and so do a lot of other, say, Adobe-based programs. But everything that you will need to create your audiobook is available on Audacity. Truly, you won't be sacrificing anything. The next thing you're going to need is, hold on, a microphone. This is the ever-present Blue Yeti microphone. You've probably seen a lot of YouTubers using it. There's a reason for that. It's a good microphone. Depending on the software you're using and what your tools are like, you might also want to get a pop filter to go over your microphone. I used one for the first two, and that's because I had a different microphone. It was the Blue Snowball, which was slightly less of a clean sound. So the pop filter really helped. Additionally, I also recorded in my husband's closet. Why my husband's closet and not mine? Because he has more clothes than I do. For your recording environment, you will want to go someplace that is quiet. However, with a good microphone and good stereo, you don't need to go the full recording studio route. A closet works fine, a room works fine, you don't want any echoes, and you definitely don't want the sound of sirens going by. As you're recording, I would also recommend that you read from an ebook. Do not try to flip pages of a paper manuscript or from your paperback. For all that is holy, either read off of a laptop if you can scroll or just from your Kindle. It's not mandatory, but I also recommend you create a separate recorded file for each chapter or section. This makes it easier for you at the back end. Regardless of which platform you upload to, you will also have to have beginning credits, which is basically like book title, author, and narrated by. End credits, which can be just as simple as the end, and also a sample. Generally, you make the sample last. You've recorded the whole audiobook, you're done, you have all of your chapter files, and then you go through and you decide which 2 to 5 minutes would be really riveting for a prospective buyer to look for and say, yeah, I like the way that sounds, I'm going to buy this. Be careful not to include any spoilers though, so I recommend between the first and the second chapter. Once you've recorded everything, you have kind of two options here, and it depends on what you want to pay for. You can send the raw audio files to a sound engineer, and they will clean up absolutely everything. They'll take out all your mouth noises, they'll take out all your little, bad cuts or whatever, and they'll make it clean. That's more time intensive, so I don't do that. What I do first is I go through and I make sure I get rid of all of the pauses, all of the ums. If I have any bad takes, I remove those. And bad takes are going to happen, and that's okay. So just keep it rolling and just keep recording until the chapter is done. Then I go back and I get rid of everything that I don't want in the book. You will, however, need a sound engineer, but the good news is they're actually very inexpensive. I used mine. I think he was about $180. I got him off of Fiverr. And they will go through and make sure that your audio is beautiful. It will sound like it was recorded in a studio. All of those weird, lip smacking things that everybody has. Don't think that you don't have them. And don't think that those pro audiobook narrators don't have them either. Yes, they do. They just have a sound engineer. And so will you. There are also specific requirements for these platforms, especially ACX. They're pretty nitpicky about the decibel range that your audio can be in. Your sound engineer will make sure that that works too. This is a vital step because once you get onto your platform, whether it's Findaway Voices or ACX, you really kind of want to upload it and be done with it. You do not want to get that error message saying, no, I'm sorry, your files aren't going to work for us. That's a mess and it's annoying. And if you're not a techie person, you might not know exactly what the problem is. So save yourself some hassle, spend the $180 and get you a sound engineer. Once you have your MP3s ready for all of your chapters, guess what that means? That's right, it's time to upload your audiobook. So that's how you do it. Pretty easy, right? Now it does take a couple of days to go through it for Findaway Voices to say that yes, you've passed quality checks, and then start rolling it out to vendors. Some vendors appear quicker than others. I'm still waiting on ACX to post book 1. It's been more than 30 days. It's really annoying. At the end of the day, if you decide that you just can't narrate the books yourself, fair enough, and you really need to hire somebody, make sure that you save up in advance. There are some narrators who will do a profit share, but if you're a new author, even if you already have 1 or 2 books under your belt and they did okay, it doesn't matter. Narrators will not want to take the risk. They want to be paid up front, just like every other service provider. Profit share is generally only accepted if you can show the receipts that you make bank. And in that case, you can afford to pay them up front anyway. So that's the process of creating an audiobook. As you can see, it's probably not as difficult as you may have been thinking it was. And given the world that we're living in where everybody is so busy and we want to make it easier for people to ingest our content, audiobooks might be something you want to consider. So that's all I have for today. If you enjoy reading paranormal mysteries, you can find a link to my audiobooks in the description. And until next time, take care and write well.